The last one, we had a Python 6-week Python class, very intense, very hands-on. We'll be having another version of this course sometime earlier next year. So just to give people so much knowledge, yeah, and all. Yeah, so we follow us like on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, connect with us, chat with us. We're helpful to discuss and share more knowledge about computer science. So I'll introduce myself, yeah, at the end. But yeah, so let me start. So JavaScript workshop. Okay, so basically, yeah, I'm using slides from last year. So I'm going to put an updated link where you can get, some of the things which you need to install and start a code. And tomorrow I'll also post the solutions and some external references or guide, which will be useful as you get your hands dirty with JavaScript. So let's so why like to get ready, for example, I know you might be watching on Zoom. So like if you want to like play along to some of the examples, you can have on Google Chrome, just like open maybe any web page and just right click on it, and then you can click console. I'm going to show people these steps, as I work through them. Or you can just use REPL it to run your JavaScript interpreter. After the lecture today, I'll send more materials on how you can install Node. If you have Node, then you can like easily execute JavaScript code. So follow along. I might be doing most of the demos for today, but then at the end of today's lecture, I'm going to give you work and files, for you to complete. Then for tomorrow, just be like finishing in and just recapping and having fun with JavaScript. So let's get started. So let's just talk about a brief introduction to JavaScript. So what is JavaScript? So this is like, it has kind of become the language of the web. So many platforms, they're built using JavaScript. It adds the functionality to our web pages. So you can think of web pages. If I'm using maybe like some kind of an analogy, I think of like, human beings, like you have the skeleton, that's HTML, and then you have your flesh, that's CSS. But then having the life force, to actually walk or to do something or to lift a finger, all of that functionality, it comes with what gives human beings the functionality. So when it comes to web, we talk of JavaScript as that thing which gives that functionality. So it's the de facto language of the web. So it's a high-level, dynamic, untyped, interpreted programming language. So this is just for people who are more interested, like in comparing this language and this other one. But as we go through the examples, we are going to understand why we say it's a dynamic or untyped or interpreted. They're just different types of programming languages, and some they are typed. For example, Java, and then some are interpreted. Python is an interpreted programming language, and also JavaScript that's how you can give that kind of description. So most people, they get confused when they speak of JavaScript. So a rule of thumb is just to say that Java is to JavaScript as car is to carpet. So what that expression says is, you have car and you have carpet. Yeah, nothing in common. They're just both objects. So don't mix the two. Java it's on its own, and also JavaScript is on its own. Even though like all programming languages they might share like some similar things, but then those two they're like just two different languages. I think someone just like decided to give them like similar names, but they are different programming languages. So there's this excerpt from the good part, like where they describe JavaScript as it's a beautiful, elegant, and highly expressive language. JavaScript is so beautiful, like you can do so much, but it's buried under like a steaming pile of good intentions and blunders. With that expression, like you can do so much with JavaScript. The web is powered by JavaScript. Our applications, you can modernize it, but then it's just all over the place. It's just all over the place. But it's good intentions, and no, there are blunders and all. So sometimes, if you would want to actually get to learn JavaScript, it might be hard for you to actually know where to start because it's like all over the place. So yeah, someone like wrote that code. But for this workshop, we'll try to make sure that we try to introduce JavaScript, in a way that will make it easier. Okay, so if you have a piece of pen and paper, maybe like next to you, to like write your note or to write code, that's that would be good. Usually, if I'm teaching this workshop in person, I just write code, on a whiteboard or anything. 1 second, I need to turn this thing off. Okay, it's the heating, so it had to be like turned off, so the noise will stop in like a couple of minutes. Okay. So if people have any questions, feel free to ask them here in the chat. Okay. So why should you learn JavaScript? So we all know like Google Chrome is like it's one of the most popular is the most popular like browser, which is out there. And we also know that some other browsers, for example, like is it Bravo, or like something they'll build, using the Google Chrome's like engine. So that engine makes executing JavaScript very, very fast. So when you are writing, like you're a web developer or you are creating your beautiful applications, or writing code mostly is about writing code which will execute fast and which is also efficient. So, which doesn't take that much space and also which runs at a much faster pace. So Google V8 JavaScript engine just makes running, like your web applications which are in JavaScript very, very fast. And also JavaScript is getting more and more popular because it's kind of like that fundamental component of the web. And we have so many libraries, which are emerging. For example, you can do work with React, with Angular, or with AngularJS. Angular, there's also like which uses TypeScript, but yeah, with AngularJS, there are so many with D3JS, like 3JS, like if you love, all those stuff about visualizations. So there are so many things which you can do and create using JavaScript. There are so many libraries. So the fact that JavaScript also has the Node.js framework, that in itself makes it a full stack language. By full stack is you can use the programming language to write the back end or the front end of your applications. So by back end we mean like what's there behind the scenes, and then the front end is what people can see and stuff like that. So there's also a huge developer community. There's so much stuff which you can reuse on, like, on Stack Overflow. So one other thing about writing code is you are always going to get stuck most of the times. But then when you get stuck, you need to get help with a community effort. So let's say you are trying to install something or to bundle something together, and then you face errors. If you search online, almost there's some other person who also got the same error and who asked a question and got an answer. So that's why, it's just good to learn JavaScript. It's worth your time. So any questions? Have I kind of successfully convinced you that the next an hour and something minutes, that you should like give us that time? Let's see in the chat. Let's see. Any questions? Should I continue? Do people have maybe like a piece of pen and paper? Okay. Yeah. I think yes. I think people are good. People, they are excited. They are eager to enjoy this knowledge. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. So like all other languages, we're just going to start with the syntax. So I know like some of the people, they've, maybe you've done something with one programming language, or you've done something with Python, or maybe you've taken my previous classes before. Yeah, so this is, well, I assume first that you have some knowledge, even if you don't, like, it will all make sense. So I try to draw parallels between what you know and what what I'm teaching. So I'll try to form those connections. Some great cognitive scientists, when they're describing all these concepts, it's easier to learn something new if you can. How hard is it to learn without a background of computer science? So yeah, I think if you have maybe like a background of mathematics, it becomes easier. And we're also there. We don't expect at the end of this workshop. I don't expect people to be very, very fluent in JavaScript, because it's a learning process. But my hope is to introduce people and to get them excited in learning more, about this. That's a very good question. Okay. So syntax for all programming languages, we start with how you can print something. So how you print in JavaScript is using this line called console.log. So when you say console.log, this is a function which you are calling. What it does, it prints hello world, in the console. So the console is like, where, you get your output, where you can like run your commands. So it's like, that line looks like, just very easy and straightforward, but like that saves so much time if you are writing your code in JavaScript and you are trying to, to figure out where the error is. This is the number, the first line of code which we use to introduce people to JavaScript. Okay. So we have things called variables. So let me let me use our JavaScript. So when you right click, you open Chrome, then you right click and you say inspect element. Yeah, so, and then you click console here. So let me expand it. Okay, this is what we we're going to use. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No questions. No questions. Yeah. I was looking at the chat. So okay. So for example, this is the console, you know, it tells you, you know, like, okay, this is, you know, the console, and you know, these are the functions, for example, which are inside the which are inside the console. So a function, think of it as a mathematical function. It takes an input, does something, and you know, it gives you a value. So we are using this log function. You know, for example, when you say console dot log, and then you type in hello world. Okay, yeah. And then let me put an exclamation mark. I like putting exclamation marks. They make people happy. You know, what it does is, you know, it prints hello world to you, and then it returns undefined. I'm going to explain more what that undefined means. Okay. Any questions? Are we still together? Okay, yes. So let's look at so programming languages, you know, like they build on to like some principles which are there, you know, in mathematics. So let's look at the different types of variables. So variables, you can think of it as names, you know, which you have in JavaScript. So for example, you can you have a Boolean. So how you have a variable, you start with the var keyword. Let me do this. Okay, you start with the var keyword, and then you then write, for example, if I say let yes be equal to what? Be equal to true. You know, and then now when I say what's yes, it gives me that, okay, the value of yes is true. So this line basically says I had a value true, you know, to represent a Boolean. It's a value which represents whether something is true or false. Okay, so do I mind increasing the font size? Okay, yeah, is it better now? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, like, yeah, you know, I have a value here which this value, like, it's a Boolean because it represents whether something is true or false. In this case, this is true. So what I'm doing is I have a value and I'm binding it to a name. So that name, in this case in JavaScript, we call it a variable. So now I'm saying yes means what? True. So when I say the variable yes, let it be equal to true, what it does is it assigns this. So in future, when I call yes, you know, it knows that, okay, the value of yes is what? Is true. I can also, for example, say, oh, let me assign, you know, like the value false to be what? To be to the name what? To the variable called no. So you can do that. Now when you call it no, and then it tells you that what? No, it's what? It's false. Okay, so basically like you have something, you can assign something to anything. For example, like, oh, let yes be this, or let x be this, let name no, let the variable be this, and all like that. Okay, so with this we can also like yeah, we can we also have something which is called, you know, a number, for example. you can have x, maybe let's say, or x is equal to 5. So if you note JavaScript ends with a semi-colon, at the end, you can say, okay, x is equal to 5, what's the value of x? X is what? It's undefined. Okay. What's the value? What's the value of x? Okay, x is equal to 5. I'm going to explain why you get this undefined every time when you assign. But then, when you try to call it, you get a true value. I'll explain it like halfway through my course. So when you type the value of pi, not picture but just pi, it tells you that, pi is not defined. You get an error and quote reference error. Why? Because I tried to use this. So like if you look at these other variables, I'll first give them, assign something to them so that I can use them. But now let's try to type in, to assign var pi. This is the pi in mathematics, area of a circle is equal to pi r squared. So I know all of you guys, you love mathematics so much, so you basically know the digits of pi. So that's 3.1415926 and then you can continue. What's the next one? Okay, 359. Okay, and then don't forget to put, after each and every JavaScript line, don't forget to put your expression at the end here. So if you assign this, what we have done is we've assigned this number. This is called a number in JavaScript. So we've assigned it to to the name pi, and then we can now use it. For example, now we can get it. But the first time when we called pi, we got an error because we had not yet defined what pi was. But then this line actually defines, what the value of pi should be, and then now we can then use it, in our code. Okay, so we also have, some data type, for example, called, string. So let me just, I'm like a workshop. Today's workshop is about what? A JavaScript workshop. Okay, and then you put that colon at the end. See, so now when you say workshop, what you have done is you have saved this. This is called a string. So a string represents textual data. You have actually saved this value, and assigned it to what? To this variable named workshop. So now you can then call that name. It now stores. Think of this variable as a store for what you actually want or intend to use later. So you can also, for example, we also have something which is interesting, which represents, it's always good for all languages to know what represents what's empty. So for example, we have null. So null, it's in programming languages, we have to represent or to indicate the absence of nothing. So that absence of anything or whatever, we use the word now. So when I assign that, for example, I can now get that, okay, empty is equal to what? It's equal to now. Okay. What else? I can also have this word. Let's go to this word called undefined. So undefined, that's nothing. Okay. So let's just assign it and say, okay, that's undefined. So what undefined can only be represented, if a value is undefined. So JavaScript, we, as a developer, you should avoid explicitly setting a value to be undefined. But when JavaScript creates a variable in memory, it sets its value to undefined until like until it gets until you get a value. For example, if I say what's var of Eric, the value of Eric, for example, will be what? Will be undefined. So you can like initialize or instantiate variables in JavaScript. But then when you instantiate them, by default, they are assigned to nothing. They're assigned to what? To undefined. And then now, if I say, for example, maybe let's say, I'm like, okay, Eric should be what? Should be a string. And then now when I say Eric, I've now assigned something to that name Eric. So now Eric is no longer what? Undefined. It's now what defined it. I've defined what Eric should be. It should be a string with the word what? Eric. A string is textual data with the word Eric. So why do I get undefined statement after even after initializing the variable? Okay, so that's a very very good question. So every time, since this is the console, so what the console does is it just gets your expression. When it evaluates it, it prints something just to print something and return. So we get undefined if we attempt to print the value of a variable that has not yet been assigned. And also this is like, yeah, for the console, it just does that. Like, it knows that, okay, it executes this line, but then it, yeah, it kind of like, it just does that for every line, which is not explicitly returning any value. It just returns like, undefined. So you can just think of it in Python as the equivalent of none. But none doesn't get printed in Python. But here, it just prints it like that. What is the difference between between null and undefined, and that's a good question, especially like thinking, where would you want to use null, and where would you also want to use undefined? Okay, so now you can actually think of it as so for example, I've explained that undefined, it means like you haven't defined a value. Okay, but then when you define a value, you can then choose to either define it to be like a variable. You can then choose to either assign it to be a Boolean, to be a string, to be a number, or to be null. So as we write code, as we write algorithms, I think I'm going to show you like an example where we have to use like just knowing that something can be null. It's a very important it's a very important concept in writing code. So I know in other languages, usually none, like undefined, and null, they usually like mean the same thing, but basically null is the equivalent of what you have as null in Java, none in Python. Undefined is just like an extra thing which JavaScript uses So I would like, I can just do like a Google search on Stack Overflow so that I can answer your question more effectively. So what is the difference between now and undefined? And then every time when you write, you Google a computer science question, you put Stack Overflow at the end. Yeah, so for example, like, it's a special meaning of no value. But then like undefined, it means that the variable has been declared, but then, like you haven't given it a value. So now you have given it a value, but the value is no value, like something. So, people, they also ask questions. It's now a call to undefined. Null is an assigned value. It means nothing. Undefined means a variable has been declared but not yet defined. Actually, I like this. I'll get it in there and put it in my slides for the next course offering. Thank you very much for asking such a thoughtful question. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So we also have something called a symbol in JavaScript. It was introduced, in the latest JavaScript standard, but we won't go into details, on symbols here. And then, yeah. So when it comes to our mathematics, so we have, for example, okay, I can clear the screen. Okay, yeah. So we have, okay. So you use these two dashes, to write a comment. So you have, let's say, logic operators, So the logic operators, they are similar to the ones which you have in Java. So what do I mean by logic operators? So if you did or can we update? Yes, you can update the value of a variable. Okay. So I know some other languages, for example, Scala, you might have a variable and you might have a val or something. So one can represent like a mutable data structure and a mutable type, and the other one a mutable type. So I'll explain that more, as we go on. But yeah, you can update the value. Okay, so let's. Yeah. Oh, okay. But someone was asking. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was yeah. I thought like yeah, Christine wanted to ask a question, but maybe like yeah. So yeah, okay. So you can have a variable a which is equal to true. So in JavaScript, you can also have another like you can also like write another variable, like within that same line, though we don't advise it, but you can do it. So because it just knows, it's not like it's white space insensitive. It's not like Python. So you write this is the first statement or expression which gets evaluated, and then this is another one. So what you have done is you have assigned. Now you know that what's the value of A? A is equal to true, and what's B? B is equal to false. So basically you can say A and B. What do you get when you say and B? This is we're using. So this is a comment. So when you say A and B, if you have done physics, I think, those things like truth tables, if you mix this and you mix that, and then you can like use the Morpheus theorem to find what, what something should compute. Like if you have true and false, you know that true, if something is true and another thing is false, then you know that what you have is what is false. But if you have, you can have true or false, for example. So you shouldn't forget. Sometimes it executes, but we shouldn't forget this. This semicolon at the end. So this represents what? This represents this represents the or expression. For example, you can say this or this. Or you can also say, for example, if you say not A, we know that A was true. So not, you represent it using this, this exclamation mark. It inverts the Boolean. A Boolean is a truth or false value. So it just inverts it and gives you, the other thing. So you can also check for equality. So for example, if you say, so you have 5. There's this thing with the JavaScript where you have 5 as a number, then you have 5 as a string. It tells you if you use the 2 equal signs, it checks, oh, is this equal to that? So JavaScript does auto type conversion. So, it just, it can convert and say, okay, let me just convert both of these let me convert this one to a number. And then, oh, are they equal? Yes, they are equal. But now if you strictly want to check for identity, you can use the 3 equal signs. For example, if you say, is this identical to 5? Like, are they the same things? Then you get false. But then if, let's say I have, a variable called 5, which is equal to what? 1 plus 4, and then I'm like, oh, is 5 actually equal to what? To 5. I get true because this is like, this evaluates to what? A number. And then you can check for the identity using three equal signs. So the 2 equal signs, they just check for equality, but JavaScript does, like a type conversion. But then to check for all of them, you just do that. So you can also have like, in like I can have a variable, I can say x is equal to 5, and then I can have another variable, let's say y, it's equal to 6.0. Okay, so in Python, you'd know that, okay, this is an integer, this is a float. So in JavaScript, these are, there's no difference between an integer or a float or a double. So a float in Python, you call them a double in Java. So there's no difference. They're all just numbers, so, they're just assigned as numbers. So let's say, we have another value named z, and then we assign it to b. So this is just like an equation, like z is equal to x. So you can use, for example, we know that, you can subtract, and then you can also find the mod. The mod basically helps you to find a remainder. Like if I say 9 divided by 4, I know that I get what? 2, remainder 1. So if I say 9 mod 4, then the remainder is what? It's 1. So this percent sign is used to help find a remainder in that. I'll put more information and all, to get people up to speed. And then you can also, for example, you can multiply maybe by 3, and then you can also divide by 2. So basically, this just follows, our primary school mathematics, following the rules of BODMAS, where use, division stats and all those things. And then from here you can then it evaluates, and you get an expression. So you can find, for example, oh, what's the value of C? It's 8. Why is it 8? Because you basically you had 5 minus 6, and then plus. So 5 minus 6, you had minus 1 plus what? But then when you say 6 times 3/2, basically you are saying you're adding minus 1 plus 9. This evaluates to 9. So minus 1 plus 9, you get what? You get 8. Okay, so you can also increase values. For example, you can say x is equal to x plus 1, let's first check what the value of x was. So x was 5. So when I say x is equal to x plus 1, this is the question which Arnold was asking, that can you update a variable? So yes, we can update. For example, I'm okay, let me add 1 to the current value of x. So you can update it and get something like 6. And we also know that you can also update like this. So this line of code is the same as this one. It just adds 1 to that value of x. Turns out there's another one, also use this one more. It's more common in Java. So these 3 lines of code, they mean what? They mean the same thing. Okay, if you have questions, ask on the chat, and then we're just getting done with these basics, and then we'll look at the interesting stuff. Okay, so we've done with numbers. So we have let's say I have a message called what? Called hello everyone. Okay. So then let me put an exclamation mark because they make you happy. And then let's say I have another message, more message, and then let me say, okay, this message should be message plus. So I'm getting that previous message, and then I'm like, oh, from Eric, yay. Then I put something like that. Okay, so what I'm doing is this message, which is more message, what it does is it takes this message and then it adds, something to it. So that, we'll have a space there. Let me just come and put a space in there. And then now we can what's the value of let me state by, okay, what's the value of message? Message says, oh, hello everyone. What's the value of more message? Oh, more message, hello everyone, from Eric. So basically what we just did is concatenation, combining, adding strings. So you can add strings. Here we're looking at adding numbers. This is how you add strings. Strings is textual data. And then you can also, for example, JavaScript supports some kind of, you can mix, types. For example, if we say you can have, for example, you can say 1 plus 2 it's equal to, and then you can also concatenate to a string. You can concatenate something. Maybe you can concatenate a number, or you can concatenate a boolean. So in this case, let's add, for example, 1 plus 2, and then we can, for example, can say that, okay, what's mixed type? So it just adds, like here it just appends, concatenates this value of evaluating that. How do you, okay, the precedence of operators for that part with Z, does it follow the basic precedence of operators just like any other language? Yeah, I think it does. So usually just the structure and interpretation of these basic things is the same throughout. For example, it will start like, actually, I'll get back to you on that one, because usually languages start reading things from left to right. It might read, but then like when it starts computing, yeah, I'll get back to you on that one. But it behaves the same way, we'll solve that expression as human beings. For example, we can first clear this, like the mod sign here, and also clear this division, and then we multiply that, and then we get, yeah. Yes, mixed type are returned as string. So 1 plus 2 auto converts to a string. Yes, it auto converts to a string. So basically, like, I could also have said, mixed type 3. I could also have just like, yeah, put in like 6. And then, of course, it's the wrong thing, So basically, this is a number. Like in this case, 6 was a number. So it gets auto-converted to be a string, and then gets added then. Okay. So thank you for talking about this conversion, because my next point basically we have to address that. So you can convert between like numbers and strings. So there's a function called pass, already pass int. So to pass is to take something in and process it and output a value. So pass int, for example, if I say pass int, hey, I get none. So none means not a number. Yeah, so it says, okay, you can't change this thing to a number, which is an integer, because this is not a number. But then maybe let's say I have a variable called 52, but as a number. I can, for example, I can say call the pass int function, and then what I now pass in there is like, let's say I have 52.3. So I want to save this as a number. Okay. You see, and then like if I say what's 52 number, what it did is, this was a string. We can recognize a string with their decimals. But then when you call this pass int function, it just gets this integer and then it throws away everything. Then what it returns to is something which is of type number. So this is the conversion, which you can use to convert, the numbers to strings. And then let's say you can also like have maybe like a variable. Let's say you have 52.3 number. If you want to keep maybe that decimal, then you can have you can pass it as a float. A float says your float refers to all those things like decimals and commas and stuff. So when you pass that, there's a float, and then you just say 52.3. Okay, and then you get what? Get an answer. Undefined. So, and then 52.3. Usually it allows you to auto complete. And then it managed to convert this. Yeah. And also, let's say now you want to have a variable called 52, like, as a string. You can say 52, the number, and then put a dot, and then invoke, like, this method, to string method. So it says, take this number and convert it to a string. And then, yeah, when you now get 52 as a string, you get it copied back.
Is it possible like to change 52 as in 52 in words to 52 integer or string?
Or like maybe let's say you have something like 52 in words. So you then have to use some libraries. Maybe someone actually wrote the code somewhere where you can like map, so that, like, because you have to for example, when we use this pass int or this pass float function, what we're actually doing is someone wrote that code and said, oh, it will look through the string and change it to a number. So if there's someone who actually wrote a library, who wrote a library, for example, when you have the word, for example, when you have 52, basically the code will know that it to first, maybe you can split this, and then it will read this first word and then map it. For example, it will know that, oh, 50, then it maps to what, 50. Then it knows that it can what, then get this other one and add it to choose. So someone can write a code to do that. Actually, that would be one of the problems which I'm going to give you guys for your next interviews with me. That would be an interesting one to do. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah. I'm getting, so any questions? Okay. So now I'll just pause like writing on the console, and then, because this is all like dark and gloomy and scary, and go to my slides, which are pretty. Okay, so what we have done is we've basically like, we said that we have a boolean which represents a true or a false value. Then we also said we have all these numbers. I'm going to make this slide available at the end. We have a number. You can have X or pi, and then you have like strings, you have now, you have nothing, symbols, we're not talking about them. Then arithmetics, so that, okay, this is what you can do with using the operators, more similar to Java, and mostly that's like something which is building up from mathematics or physics. And then number arithmetics, we have all these, you can like basically add them the way in which you add them using like primary school mathematics, or like early mathematics. And then you can concatenate two strings. It means adding them together. You can convert numbers to strings and back and forth. So now they have this thing called an object. So what we're doing right now, those are like the basics, primitive data types. So JavaScript supports objects. So objects, you now have these data types which are like more complex. They have properties. which is data, and also behaviors. Basically, you think of it as you are passing in an object. You can pass a message to it. You can tell it what to do, and it can also give you, an output. So functions are objects, that are given a special treatment, in Java. So JavaScript comes with several built-in objects, that correspond to 4 of the 6 primitive data types. For example, you have a Boolean, and like you have a Boolean, number, string, symbol, and all. Okay, so I'll slide through this so that we can work on our examples. So we have this thing called an array. An array in Python is a list. So for example, here we have our array, with like 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're like, oh, we have a variable named x, which is 3. So now if we want to get values in an array, you can say, what's the element at index 0? It tells you that, oh, that element is what? It gives you 1, because it knows that 1 is that element which is at index 0, right? Yeah. And then also, when you want to find what's the element at index, okay. If you want to find what's the element at index 3, and then you start counting from 0. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. Then it tells you that what's at position 3 is what? Is this number 4. But if you say, what's the element, in other languages, we know that when you say you get something which is out of like you want to query something from an array, and it's out of the index, like out of range, you get an error, like index error in Python or something like that. In JavaScript, it won't give you an error, but it will just give you what? Undefined. So it basically says you haven't assigned value to this port. So this is what it does. It takes 3, and then it adds 1, you get 4. So it goes here and says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is outside of the array. So you can't get that element. And you can also use this. This is how you find the length. So you just say array.length, and then it gives you 4. Okay. So you can also have an object. So how you define an object, you just have a variable. This is the name of the object. So an object, you can think of it, for example, in this case, it's like it's a key value pair. So object, I have name, Eric, age. This was my age last year in binary, so you can like do the conversion there. And then, assign something to that array which we had there. Okay. So now this looks terrible, but this is a valid syntax. So now if I say, for example, y, let the variable y be equal to 8. Okay. So if I say, for example, I'm like object.name. So what it does is it says, what object? This is the name object. Okay. And then it says, if I say dot name, it says inside object, there's something, a key, which is called what? Name. So it gets that and it retrieves and it gives me what? Eric. If I say object, object.y, this one, it will give undefined. So basically, it's the first one, like when you say, dot name, it can like match in, to the name as a string. But when you say dot y, this is a string, and this is more like of like, something which is assigned, more of like a variable. So you can't do like something like that. So if you want to actually access what age is, then you can just have to say, you know, like object dot what dot age, saying what, like here in the reason why it gives you undefined is it thinks of, it differentiates between a key like this and another key like this one. I know people should have a question on this one, and I'm waiting for the questions. Yeah, in the chat, for example. What if you had
So, like,
another?
can I ask something?
Yeah.
It would have worked if we had said variable y equals object.age.
Variable y is equal to. So if you say variable y is equal to object.age, then you are now assigning it to this value.
Okay. So, and then if we come to line 20, it would have worked like to say object.y. Would it give us like that file?
So when you say object, like if here we said variable y is equal to object.age, when we say line 20, when we say object.y, we're going to, it will throw an error.
Okay.
Because it will, for example, in this case, line 21, it was looking for object.3, but 3 wasn't there, you know, yeah, in these names. So like, you know, it threw an error.
So this object is immutable, like we can't change any variable in it.
Or you can change, you can change. So like this, like this, yeah. So basically, like, yeah, is this so there's this part, this which I started with, you know, this code, like that's JavaScript. It was built with good intentions, you know, but then it's like so much of a pile of, like, you know, of blunders and all. For example, like for me, basically, I'm like, you know, why would they have to, like, to accommodate everything and all? So like usually, you know, there are like more room to make errors, but yeah, it's there. So that's why, like, this is just like, you know, picking up all the syntax and then would work on it. Okay. So we also have built-in modules, like for the math. You can, you know, use the math module. You can use random, like square root, sine, cos, tan, you know, a, pi, and all. Then for console, we're already saw this console.log, but then you can, like, one, people, info, error. Websites, they use this more. And then objects, we have seen this toString method in objects. And then for arrays, you can push something into an array, like adding something. You can pop, you can shift, you can splice it, like, you know, like splitting and slicing or something like that. And then you can join, you can reverse. So these are like, there are libraries, you know, like, which are built in. And then for strings, you can, like, get the character, you know, like character at index something. You can slice, you can get a substring, you can convert to uppercase to lowercase, you can replace, you can trim. So if you check, for example, on W3 schools, they have wonderful documentations, you know. For example, you open them and then you start, like, you know, experimenting with these built-in modules in JavaScript. And then we also have things called functions. So there are two ways of declaring a function in JavaScript. So this here, like, I have a function. This is a recursive function which has to find the factorial of a number. For example, I'm like, oh, what's the factorial of x? So, you know, if x is less than 1, return 1, else return x times factorial of that. So that's how you can write factorial in JavaScript. So if you have never, like, done any of this code, for example, like, you know, any language where you are committing this, you know, there's nothing to worry about. What you'll be doing will be more of an interesting exercise. But then if you are also curious to, like, learn, I teach most of these in my Python class, introducing the structure and interpretation of computer programs. will be having it earlier next day. So if you're curious to learn more, about problem solving and all, you can definitely join us. So this is, for example, this is another way, or this is the way of defining the Fibonacci function. If this is fib, and check, so just check how we're now using the if and else statement. In Python we have those like colon and all, but here we're just having the parentheses to like wrap things up. So we say there are two ways of declaring a function. This other one is you have the function, and then this one, it assigns like a literal to like a variable. So you can define a function by assigning it to a variable. So if you look at these two, the difference is that this one, you have the word function. The word function should be there. And this one provides the name of the function. Whereas this one, you get the function. So you can think of it as if it's behaving something like our lambda functions in Python. So this one, you can it's a function, but this function, you have to assign it to a variable, so that you can use it. For example, this one finds the absolute value. So it says it takes any value x, and if x is less than 0, this is a quaternary operator. So if this is the condition, if this is true, then it gives you this. If this is false, then it gives you x. So it says it takes x. If x is less than 0, then return minus x, to get the absolute value. If x is negative, you want to turn the number to be positive. Else, just if the number is positive, just return it. That's how you find the absolute value. And then for this one, it's a way. This is the same way of defining the function. For example, where you here you want to find the sum of elements in an array. So we know that you have to initialize the variable called sum or total, which you'll be adding to. And then this is how you loop through, for variable. So you have to start, at an initial index, and the limit, and this is your step, you'll be increasing by 1. So you are saying, this says basically you want to access each and every variable, this I, or index each and every element in the array, and you want to access that and add it, get that variable and add it to what? Increment your sum. So when you finish looping through the entire list, then you return what? Sum. Okay, and then you can also have this this one is filter. So you have an array and you have a function, and then you're like, okay, first you have some you have some result, which is there. So this is an example of a what? Of a higher order function. So you can write for loops. You have the quaternary question mark operator. You can do recursion. We have seen it. If and else statements, they are here. Higher order function. The higher order function, this is a function which takes in what? It takes in another function as an argument. There are two types, remember. So for this one, you have the result, and then while the array, it's greater than 0. So by shifting, you're like you want to up, if you would want to have the result only if applying this function to the things in your array results to something called, which is true. Yeah, well, maybe for example, this function can be, or check if a number is odd. So let's say I now give you array has a list of numbers. So this one can, for example, say, is odd a number? If it evaluates to true, then it pushes the result to what? To some, it pushes that number to a result. So now if I give you a number and they say, oh, give me all odd numbers, you can then define, like, call this filter function by giving it what you want to filter and then giving it how you want to filter it. So basically this is like the same logic. So just look at, like, either you learned coding using Python or Java or anything, the structure and the interpretation of computer programs is the same. Like solving the filter or the absolute value or fib or factorial is the same. What's just now different is the syntax. But already, like, you can read, even if you didn't know JavaScript, you can like read this and make sense if you have done at least one language. So a function is an object. Functions can be passed into other functions as parameters. We saw with higher order functions, and they can be returned by another function. Higher order functions also, they can have their own attributes. They have like these other methods, which you can like experiment with them. And then functions create a new scope or frame. So like the behavior is more of like similar to Python, like when you're using those environment diagrams, like if you want to evaluate them, you evaluate them in a new frame or in scope. So like, except with one exception, like in JavaScript, like all variables from the parent frame are in fact modified inside the child frame. So for this CS7 class, there is a part which I didn't explain more on it, how non-local works in Python. But yeah, you can follow up with me if you are really interested in learning more about that. And then functions without return statements, they return undefined. Like in Python, some function without return statements, they return none. Here, they return what? Undefined. Okay. And then, yeah, let's try. So right now, on your pieces of paper, let's see if, let's try to declare a function map. So, we saw that we had this function called like filter. Let's see if we can have a function called map that takes an array and the function, then it applies the function to each item in the array and returns a new result. So this is very easy. I'll give you like 30 seconds. Okay, on a piece of paper. I'm not kidding, it's not easy, but yeah. And also, I forgot to tell people the session was a 2-hour session. So maybe people might be wondering why this thing is not ending, or where are those cool things which you promised to show. Don't worry, you see them. We're just like concluding this. Okay, yeah. So this is how we'll write, the map function. So we said, it basically it takes in an array and the function, and then it applies the function to each item in the array. So you are doing this. Basically, it's the same syntax, which is similar to filter, but then what we are now pushing is we create a new array, and then we go through this array using this for loop. And what we're doing is we're just pushing the result of calling this function on what each element in the array, and then we return that. Or we can cheat, there's a map, an array.map object, which you can use in JavaScript to just put the function. Okay. So let's try this. If you have this code, okay, and then you have this is the first one. It starts with like line 1, and then It also calls like, oh, line 11, 17, and line 19. What would JavaScript print if we're to write this code? Like for example, this one. Okay. So if we run mystery1, what will it print? So the first thing is just like in Python, how you fn is a parameter. It just represents a function. So you could have named it, some other thing. So they just like shorten it like to fn. It represents the function. Okay. So here, when JavaScript runs this code, the first thing it runs line 1, and then it runs line 2. It knows that, okay, you have a function. So it doesn't go to line 3 for anything. It goes to line 9 because you haven't called the function, so it doesn't invoke it. So when it goes to line 9, it says, oh, console.log. But what should it log? It should log the result of calling this. You see? So now it will first call this first mystery with this one bracket here. And then when it calls that function, it says, oh, x should be 5. See? So if x is 5, then x is 5, and then what is it returning? It's returning a function. Okay. So now, if this function which it is returning then gets called again using this second bracket. So when it gets called, you're now like calling this inside function, and then you have variable now being 6, and then console.log. We had x being 4, x being 5, and x being 6, but it prints the one which is in that frame or in that scope first, and then you can, like, for example, like, it to start by printing 6, and then also print undefined, because when it does console.log, you get what? You get undefined. Okay. Is any questions? Any questions? Okay. So I'll leave.
Come again with the explanation.
Okay. Which part? So when so what happens if mystery1 was called once? Okay. So if you are running, for example, let's say you're running this line. Okay. So it will first call, like, it will note that x is 4 and have this. Note that you defined a function called mystery1. And then it will then call this function before it prints this console.log, because it first has to evaluate what's inside that into some sort of value. So when it does, like when it evaluates that, but how do we evaluate this? You first call it using this first parenthesis. Okay, so when you call them, you call this function called mystery1, where inside that function you define another value for x, which is the x in that function. But what you are returning a function. So now that this inner function is called, or this code in this inner function, it gets invoked or it gets run because you would have passed in the second pair of what? this one which I'm circling right here, the second pair of parentheses. So it's the one which says, for example, the first one goes to this, and then this one goes to that one. So now, it then knows that, okay, your variable x is equal to what? It's equal to 6. And then console.log x. When it logs x, and then the first thing which will be printed will be what? X. But then we know that this function will return what? Undefined. So now mystery has to return this function, but this function returns undefined. So mystery 1 will return undefined. And then now when you say console.log, basically all this thing evaluates to undefined. But there's a side effect that it prints console.log x. And the x which it prints here is the last one which was initialized. Okay, so the first thing which will print, it will print what? 6 from this line, and then it will print undefined from this one. And then it will move on to like line 11. It's also, it's also like similar, like, it will print 4. It will print 4 because 4 is that x which it could access, like in that function. So if you call mystery once, what Pumsler is asking, like if there's you call mystery with just without the other one, what you would return, you will return a function. It will return this inner function. And that inner function, like, let's say you assign that value to a variable, then you have to call that function again with the extra parameters for it to actually evaluate. Okay, what would happen? Oh, what will happen if mystery was called once? If it was called once, then like if you only called it like just one parenthesis, then this is a higher order function. So there's a function inside another function. So mystery returns a function, but in order to evaluate what's inside this function, you also have to call that inner function. So the first one is to call the outer function, and then the second one is to call the inner function. So the same logic exists in all three of them. But
so it's like this mystery function takes 2 inputs.
It might, no, it doesn't. So mystery takes,
it takes 0 inputs, but it behaves like it's a function that takes 2 inputs. Like if it was to have inputs, it would take 2 inputs.
So mystery takes one, like, it just takes nothing, but you call it once. But then what it then gives you, yeah. So basically, think of mystery as like yeah. Let's say I want to get let me use a very interesting example. Let's say okay, let me which example should I use? Okay, so let me see. I think for people maybe like who grew up in Zimbabwe and all. So when we're in primary school, we used to to go with our plates and would eat that porridge, which was cooked by the ladies and donated by like non-profit organizations. Ipoyoyo, yeah, that's it. So one thing which we had to do was we had to go with our own sugar, because that sometimes they'll cook it without enough sugar. Okay, so now let's say if I am with my plate and I want ipoyoyo, let's say I'm calling mystery. Okay, so when I call mystery and I give them my plate, so they give me the plate with ipoyoyo, but that poyoyo, I can't eat it directly because it doesn't have enough sugar. Okay, so now I only called mystery. So now what they give me as a return thing, as that poyoyo. That poyoyo says, okay, before you eat me, I require you to add some additional sugar here, so that you can then eat me. So now from those ladies, I didn't actually like ask for a poyoyo twice or ask for a poyoyo and the sugar because that would be very rude. They won't give you the sugar, but you just ask for porridge, and then they give you the porridge. But what they give you is something which needs an extra step of being processed. So now when they give you that porridge, you can't just eat it like that. You need to first add a sugar. So think of it as the code inside the inner function. That one is that process, those steps of me adding sugar to my porridge. Does that explain maybe a little bit?
Yes.
Oh, okay, awesome. So yeah, I think I should just go to the interesting stuff. So we have this document or object model. So in like web pages. So right now I was teaching you. This was like introducing you to like knowing JavaScript, but now using JavaScript, there's document object model. So we use JavaScript, like what I said, to manipulate HTML and CSS. So the document object model, it's a platform or language. It's an interface that allows programs and scripts to access and update, this content or the structure or the style, of a document. So what is the HTML document object model? Tomorrow I'll just give a brief introduction of HTML, just a brief one. But so in HTML, like it's defined like the HTML element is the properties. Okay. So yeah, this is the important part. The document object model is a way of how to get, change, or delete HTML element. So the API is there. So now the projects we should be doing, they'll also involve that part. You learn more of that through, like the hands-on work. And then I'll go back to that one. I just want to like rush through this and then show you the demos which we'll be doing and make the assignments before our time expires. So we also have something called, this asynchronous JavaScript in XML, the magic power of JavaScript, like the Ajax calls. So when you build web applications, you can like send data and receive data either from the server in the background. Like for example, when you fill in a form, like say, oh, enter your email here, click submit. What it does is when you click submit, Ajax happens, it just sends and retrieves data, with the server without you actually like interfering, with how things are displaying or the existence of the page. So data can be retrieved using an XML HTTP request object. Despite the name, we actually like we don't have to really use XML, but we can also use something called JSON. So I'm throwing in these names, but they all make sense because of like arranging through time. So JavaScript and yeah, okay. So what's JSON? JSON, it's a collection. It's like an object, like name value pairs. So you just have like those curly brackets and then state name this, age is this is that. Okay. So think of it as a dictionary in Python. or a hash table or an associative array. So a JSON is also like it's an ordered list of values. So I'm using these terms because we want to try and retrieve weather information about Bulawayo. Okay, so if I click on this, all right, let me. Yeah, now maybe the interesting time for demos. So yeah, I'll add these demos and then like I would. This is what we're done most like going through like introducing the hard stuff. So that's why I said this should be 2 days, so that the first day is just like, getting us up to speed with like the mathematics or the boring part of writing code. And then now we're like, and for tomorrow we'll be transitioning to the practical way of like writing code. So this is the openweather.org. And then like, we can access the API. So it tells us that, if we want to call, the current weather data for one location, for example, if we're like, oh, by city, this is how you use the API. So you're like, oh, API, you get the data, and then this is the city name, and then this is what the, the API, your keys and all. And then writing code is mostly more about reading a documentation. So we'll be more practical, we'll push each other to read more. So for example, when you open this, it basically like explains and, it gives you like some, how you can use that API. Maybe let's say you want to get weather for like several cities, how you can do it, for a certain zip code, for, like bulk downloading and all. So what we'll do is, let me show an example. Okay. So what we have is, in order for us to be able to get information from the openweather API, so they have data, about the weather for like different cities everywhere in the world. So for us to get this, we have to use Ajax, to communicate with their servers and then get information which we need from them. Okay, so this is how we communicate. So what we do is we create, an XML HTTP request. This is an object. We create a new one. Okay, so when you create, if you look at this, this first line of code, this, after going through our introduction, this shouldn't be, now you are all able to read JavaScript code. The introduction which I've given you, you can just go online on any web page and start reading code. And then from there, it becomes easier to write code. So if you look at this, you're like, okay, this is your assignment statement. This is a variable, XHR, you're assigning to what? To a new object. And then you're like, in this variable, you want to set this, this, since this is an object, when you say XHR dot on write state change, it's like the same thing as saying object dot name or object dot age. So, but you are saying that variable inside, you now want to assign it to what? To a function. Okay, so you're like, this, we saw it like on the slide which I showed about the 2 ways of defining functions. So we're like, oh, this one, like, the anonymous one, you define the function and whatever the result is, you assign it to what? To this variable here. So already we're trying to learn to make sense of this code, but because we've gone through those steps of like looking at how code is built. We know that something is a Boolean. We know that something is two equal signs means it's what is checking for equality. We know that these two end operations, it means that's the end operation. So basically we can be able to now start getting our hands dirty with JavaScript and like really building things, in a short space of time. So what happens is, if we say xhr.regiState, so this object has all these different things inside that object. So we're saying that when something changes or whatever, if the regiState whatever is 4 and the status is 200, then that means something. Then we should log some, to console some response text. So we're sending a request, and then when we get when you send a request, we get a response. So this is what we're saying, okay, we're doing something with the response. So now when we do that, we can then open like have a get. This is an API, REST APIs. You can have a get request. What are we getting? We're getting the data from the API for Open Weather Map, but we're querying this question mark and the Q. It's like, it takes in parameters. Our query is what we want the weather for Bulawayo, and then we send it. So what you then get is, let's understand just the basic properties of Ajax. So you have like on regiState, a description like it stores a function to be called automatically each time the regiState property changes. Okay, so regiState, this one, it holds the state. It holds the status of your XML HTTP request. So it's like you're making a request. So that request, it changes either, the request you haven't initialized, and then now when you start making it, the server connection, gets established. And then now the request is received. The request is processing. And then now the request is finished processing, and now your response is ready. And then for status, we're saying if it's 200, which means it's a success, it's okay. If it's 404, I think most of you might have found, 404 pages on websites. Basically, when you click on something and you get a 404 error, like, oh, page not found, basically what it would have done, it would have sent an XML HTTP request. And then when the result came in, this status would have been what? 404, and then logs that message that no, page not found. So this regiState, every time when the regiState changes, this function listens, helps us listen to every time when it makes a change. When regiState changes, on regiState change, it always checks for this condition. So I say check when our document, when our information is ready, just give us the result. Okay, so now let's see how we can work on that using our API. Okay, so I have okay. Oh yeah, I have examples. Okay, so I'll just open the code. I had the code written in Sublime. Okay, so this is okay. Can you guys see this? Yeah, I'm now introducing you to some magic. Okay, so I'm going to open this. Let me say open this so that you can see. So I have this index.html file. Now I'm going to open it with what? With Chrome. Okay. So it has opened. So now let's look at this. What's the source code? You can view the page source of your website. It tells you that, oh, this is the stuff which I wrote. So basically, if you look at my code here, this is the structure, of an HTML document. HTML, it has the head and it has the body. So if I just put the title, that the title should be what? Should be weather. So basically, like if you check here on the top here, you can see that, oh, it's written weather there. And then now I'm like, I can maybe like add something, so it's just that maybe like let me add an H1 header. Maybe let me write Emzini weCode weather. Yeah, something like that. And then now if I save this, and like, I can like reload and then it tries this so that at least you know that I'm referencing to this file. So if I view the page source, I can see that I've made some edits. So basically you can see through each and every website, what's there. So now what I'm interested is in to access, our JavaScript. If you right click and say inspect element, and then you come and click here on console, you actually see that it gave us a response. Okay, let me do like this. So why did it give us a response? Because we say that in our document, we should have a script tag called what? We added this file called Ajax, script. We added a file for JavaScript called Ajax. So what happens is every time when you load an HTML page, it runs the JavaScript code, and this is how you include it. And then inside that file, I have ajax.js, and in here that's where I wrote that that code. It makes an XML HTTP request, and then on read state change, it has to do that. But then I was like, oh, for CT, let me actually put Bulawayo here. Yeah. So for CT, if I have CT for Bulawayo, I have that as a string. And then what I've done is I got this. This is how we use the information from like the Open Weather Map API. Let me show you. This is how we query information. They said this is how we make the API call. See, we have to get this. See, so I took this first part. I was like, okay, this is what the first string. And then now I want to then add my result. I want to add this first string plus that city, for Bulawayo, plus this string is for my my API. So I'll send instructions on how you can log in. Basically, you can log in and create your own account on Open Weather Map so that they give you, the API ID, which you can then use to access information from there. So now, because I have that API key, they said an app ID is equal to what? API key. So app ID, this is the API key, my API key. So now after that, I'm able to then make this call, to say, it should send a GET request, and then it should send it. So when it sends it, now every time when I open, for example, when I open this, you see it reloads, and then what I get is the information. So this is information in JSON in JavaScript. Let me show you like we're left with just 1 minute. Let me show you a JSON viewer. JSON a JSON viewer or beautifier. Yeah, so that it's easier to see it. And then if I post it here, and then I'm like beautify. Okay, oh yeah, or something else. Oh yeah, okay, beautify. So basically, this is the information which I get from making the API call. So it tells me that you look at see, oh, the city, the name of the city is what is Bulawayo. Country, ZW, Zimbabwe. Sunrise was at this time, sunset was at this time, and time zone, this was whatever the time zone. The base stations, the temperature, it feels like this, the max, the pressure, the humidity. Then main, it tells us, oh, it's actually cloudy. Oh, so there are promises of rain. Oh, all cloudy, it's at 100% and all. So now when you know how to, what we have just done is we know how to query data from a server, and by doing that, we can then now use that data to make your applications and things which can be as beautiful as you want to be. So to be respectful of time, I'm going to stop